What's up, y'all? Welcome back to What the Hype, where this week we're going to be talking about what scares us. And do we like to be scared? Why do we like to be scared? Ooh. This is all just in time for spooky season. But first, before we get into the real frights and scares, I want to introduce my co-panelists. So I'm here with Eric and Micah. Thank you both for joining me today. Are you both settling in for spooky season? Is this apprehension?
Yes.
I'm not sure how to read it.
That's what it was supposed to be, yeah. Are we? I don't know. It's spooky. Laura, as you see, I've removed all outer layers of myself in person, and I just have bones today appearing
except
to
for
you
your
all.
face.
Oh, except for
such
a recognizable face.
Except for your beautiful face, you left that on. But then
I guess I could have had a mask and done like the skeleton. You know, I didn't go nearly as extra as I could have for this, but no, it's I am excited to talk about this, especially because I'm so curious. I don't think it's a topic we've talked about on any of our other podcasts about what actually scares you guys, and I think that being scared and having like a talk about this really offers some insight. In a rare peek into the underlayer of who we are as people. So,
may I say though, Eric, I really do appreciate how you always show up for these episodes that we do, because if folks are just listening and not seeing the video, I highly recommend that they go and check it out, because you show up in costume, or maybe it's not costume. Maybe once that hood goes up, this is going to be a completely different episode, but it's an underappreciated added value to the show.
Well, thank you. I also yearn to facilitate, like, you know, make the discussion flow. And it's like, oh, if somebody dressed up like a skeleton, I can talk easier about, you know, this thing or another thing. So I'm just having fun and also raiding my wardrobe and relearning what's in there. It's a big thing. I bought this at a thrift store maybe 2 years ago and haven't worn it once. And so this is a great opportunity as well to really plumb the depths of my closet. So really grateful to you guys for putting up with me doing all these shenanigans.
Oh no, I love it, because at least someone comes like dressed on theme. I'm never that person. I always feel like anytime we're doing like group photos for like socials or anything, everybody always has a prop or like they're dressed on theme, and I'm always the one who's like, I don't have anything. So yeah, I appreciate you.
Well, there is an opportunity for Micah to have brought a prop to today's recording specifically. I'm wondering if he happened to do that.
That
Still
prop
no?
is actually on a different level of the house here. So I will make sure this is a series actually, right? That we're about to start for the month of October. And so this particular prop can make an appearance in the future. And I think it is very appropriate for the month of October and the holiday of Halloween.
Well, you're on notice, Micah, because that's twice now. You did not bring the Halloween screaming goat action figure, minifigure to recording. So you're on notice, and it's being noticed.
Third strike, and you're out, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You're going to revoke it. You're going to have me send it back to you.
I mean, it's a cool gift. Like, I saw it, I said, Micah needs this, but I'll take it back. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so what I've learned from this is Micah's on notice for not bringing the screaming goat
not being
prop.
Themed enough.
Not being themed enough. Eric is taking notes about what scares all of us today.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I'm actually just letting AI do
Laura,
it, because you get that AI summary. I'm just letting them take the notes.
You're very much still on notice for watching the Umbrella Academy.
Yeah. You know, honestly, it is coming. This on our sister show, Mugglecast, we have a listener who keeps calling me out for not having watched Umbrella Academy. I'm going to watch it. I promise. It's actually next up on my to watch list. So I'm hoping to, at least like on this week's episode of Mugglecast, I'm hoping to say, I watched the pilot.
But, and it does strike me as maybe a spooky-ish show. Umbrella Academy,
totally.
People have magic powers. But, you know, Gen V is back.
That's another one.
I know. I saw
Yeah.
it's back, and I'm like, oh, I gotta see what happens next.
Yep. Well, and yeah, that's a great plug for another fandom that we've covered here on the show. We've spent a lot of time talking about the boys universe, so you can definitely check out all of those episodes wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, just want to give some quick social plugs before we get started. Please make sure that you are following us on social media and your favorite podcast app. Just search for What the Hype Podcast. And to see full video episodes on YouTube, we are at What the Hype Podcast over there. We are also on TikTok, Twitch, and Instagram as What the Hype Podcast. Our website is whatthehypepodcast.com. And on X, we are What the Hype Show for anyone who still hangs out on X. And of course, if you want to email us about anything, do that at whatthehypepodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what scares you. We're collecting data on everyone.
We managed to turn this into a Big Brother thing, which I guess is scary. So it's all
It
good.
is. Yeah, I mean, yeah, surveillance state. It's pretty creepy. But speaking of creepy, also just wanted to quickly plug, this time about a year ago, we did an episode, Halloween themed, around what our favorite scary movies are and a little bit of the history of horror in fiction and film. It was a really great discussion. Again, you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can also find those videos up on YouTube. So to kick us off, I thought kind of to warm us up, do any of us have any real life scary stories that have happened to us? Or maybe if they didn't happen to us and we just heard about them, they stuck with us for some reason?
Something that comes to mind is it was senior year of high school, and me and a couple of friends hit this guy with our car. And we just decided not to tell anybody about it. But guess what? He survived, and then he started terrorizing my friends. No, that didn't happen. That was in a movie, though. You know, it's an interesting question about what like really scared us and happened to scare us. But when I was looking back and thinking about this, I realized that, you know, being a kid, there are certain things that feel larger than life, and I think that like even going back to like old dreams I would have, which like old nightmares, felt scarier than if I were to have a bad dream now. And also what happened is growing up in the 90s, there were all these slasher flicks that really seemed to bank on the fears of the age in addition to being so like, I mean,
Yeah.
I Know What You Did Last Summer in theaters was terrifying, and then I'd go home, this is like 13 or 14, and I would have terrible dreams about like, you know, a killer stalking me. So it just, there's a certain tie that I want to make between like being legitimately scared, having legitimate scary stories, and youth. Because I don't think I've ever been as terrified as an adult, maybe in a different way, than I was as a kid. And when you're a kid and you don't know, I guess, the limits of the world, your imagination, which is also more rampant in youth, really amplifies, I think, that terror. So I just remember having very scary dreams as a kid, not about anything in particular, except the monster in the closet, but like, you know, really just scary dreams. You would wake up in a sweat, and that doesn't happen to me as an adult. What about you guys?
Well, that's a good thing. I mean, you're probably sweating in that sweatshirt right now,
It's
too.
getting pretty toasty, actually.
I can't
yeah.
imagine that it's
been,
cooled down
9
in
minutes?
Chicago just yet.
No.
But very similar to you, I remember certain dreams. Like they stand out to me. And in this case, I wouldn't even call it a dream. I would call it a nightmare. I was almost, I don't know what kind of situation you would call it, but it was almost as if it was a Dr. Frankenstein in scenario. And I was like laying down on this table, and this doctor was, you know, doing whatever, scaring me.
Yeah.
And then I remember very vividly turning my head in a specific direction, and I looked down, and there was like this vampire about to bust open his mouth and like go into my jugular.
God.
And I woke up, and like that still sits with me until this day. And I must have watched something, or
Maybe.
experience something, but that still is so ingrained in me, even however many years later. It is over 30 years at this point.
Yeah.
That honestly kind of sounds like sleep paralysis.
Maybe.
Has anyone ever experienced? I've had sleep paralysis once, and it's terrifying.
Well, and again, like
yeah,
dreams where you can't move.
yeah,
Dreams where you, even if you're aware that you're dreaming or not, it's terrifying. I've had dreams where I try and talk and I can't talk, which as a podcaster, that's the most terrifying.
right.
But if you try and scream and you can't scream, you try and run away, you can't move. Even just Micah, when you said you could turn your head and see, the vampire, the idea that somebody's there but not being able to turn your head is equally scary. Like I've definitely had some form of that. Again, pretty much exclusively as a kid, but like when you're trying to do something and you can't do it, when you've lost that control, the ability to control your own safety and the ability to defend yourself are some of like the underlying themes here. I've also had a dream where I could breathe underwater, and that was pretty sweet. So there's probably an upside to this.
Have you ever flown by yourself? Like you're running, and then just take off?
Oh, I don't know if have you guys ever had flying
I've
dreams?
had that.
I've not.
Cool.
I've
There's
had
an
falling
upside.
dreams. Those are terrifying.
That sounds awful.
It is awful. I think what I'm picking up here, though, is that like there is, especially when we think about, some of the first things to truly scare us, it's that sense of, like you were saying, Eric, that loss of control, either over your own body or over the circumstances and like how you're navigating them. I can relate insofar as like I was a highly imaginative child, and I was also hyper into paranormal stuff as a kid. Like I loved scary stories and movies. I loved playing with Ouija boards and doing all sorts of creepy shit. And I would like get myself amped up and kind of freaked out. And then I would be bound and determined that I had like seen something out of the corner of my eye or that I heard something. And I think for me, the creepy thing that really stands out to me from childhood and like having that conscious awareness of this as a genre was the stuff that you couldn't see and knowing like, is there something behind that corner? Not knowing what it is and what it looks like or what it could be is almost more terrifying than actually being confronted with it. At least for me.
Absolutely. And I think the only thing preventing us from still being a little scaredy pants is the life experience that doesn't say there's nothing behind the corner, but says historically there's less likely to be something around the corner because all of the days of my life I've lived when there wasn't something around the corner. And I think that might be why things are just more visceral as a kid. Even
the rational mind wins out.
Yeah.
Versus the irrational mind. And the other thing that I thought about when you asked this question, Laura, was I've had dreams too where I'll wake up because I feel as if somebody is whispering my name, and it really freaks me out.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Because you think that somebody is just standing there over your bed or in close proximity, and you wonder, who is it that's whispering your name? Is it a relative from the past? Is it somebody that you don't know about, maybe lived in the house before?
And what are their intentions? I will say, kind of getting down to earth, in answer to your question to Laura, like if we had spooky things happen to us, there was actually a time when I was very young that has nothing to do with dreams. My sister went missing. Briefly thank God it was a brief situation, but it was a summer day. And it was, my sister was, I guess, playing in the backyard. I was probably playing in the front yard. And we looked, and, my sister Bethany, who's 3 years younger than me, was not around. I was probably 8, which means she was probably 5. And it built to the point where, my mom came out and was like, where's Bethany? And I was like, oh, she's in the back. No, she's not. We got the neighbors to like several neighbors had to kind of canvas out. We walked up and down the street. We, then we had a good relationship with our neighbors. They knew us enough that, basically I just remember a line of people, kind of fanning out like you see in TV shows, yelling, Bethany, Bethany, trying to find her.
Like Stranger Things when they're trying to find Will.
Quite a bit like that, except thankfully I didn't leave near the woods.
I was going to say, did she get enticed by a clown in the sewers?
So exactly. It's exactly like that. Georgie, come down here, Georgie, kind of thing. Well, she was with two older boys, who she does not know, by the way, who I didn't even know. They were like a couple years older than me. They were, I don't know if they were punks. I don't know what their whole deal was. But it turned out eventually, and I'm walking with the neighbor who's saying like, we're going to find her. It's going to be okay. You're her big brother. It's going to be okay. And I'm terrified because I'm thinking, what if something really does happen to my sister? Like, was this my fault? I'm feeling all the feels. And she was with these two older boys who I guess came around and saw that she was playing in the backyard and said, would you like to take a walk with us or something? Right. I mean, still to this day, immediately I'm like, is there more to this story? She apparently was coaxed off and went up to a side of the blocks where I live on where like there were these townhomes and stuff. And ultimately, I think she was probably only gone maybe 45 minutes. She has never indicated that there was substantial trauma or anything weird about this situation. But these two older boys took this young girl out of her backyard, and the neighbors coming together like ended up just finding her, and then she was back. She was back. It was like an afternoon of terror, though, because again, the unknowns and the very real, tangible, like ghosts are scary enough.
Yeah.
But the real world is actually scarier.
Right. That's terrifying. And I think those concepts make for some of the scariest stories because these are real things that can feasibly happen, right? And like we've all heard stories about these things happening. So that's a different level of terror. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that.
I mean, right? Like, I haven't asked Bethany about that in a long time. I wonder what she'd say. But, by all accounts, it was just a weird sort of summer's day thing.
Well, thinking about childhood as well and the types of things that, may have influenced us or informed what felt scary, I felt like we couldn't have this discussion without talking about urban legends.
The movie 1 and 2?
I mean, sure, but
is
also
that all there is?
Yeah.
No, there's more. Yeah.
But like, the actual thing, like what were the stories that we heard coming up that really stick with us to this day?
I mean, you'd always hear stories about your school being haunted, right? Like,
yeah.
My school, middle school and high school were built in the 70s. That I attended in the late 90s. That means 25 years of opportunity for people to have died there. Especially if the building was something else first. No, I mean, I would hear about stories about the auditorium, which was kept near pitch black except for the so-called ghost light on the stage at all times, and hear stories of, I don't know, an old janitor that had passed away or died doing some work on the there were actually like catwalks up above where all the seating was and stuff, and boiler rooms. Oh my God, totally out of Freddy Krueger. My junior high school had just like this insane boiler system, and there was like extra rooms you could locate, you could see beneath like window wells of like what's down there, not classrooms. I think that there were stories told about each and every one of these areas that as kids you kind of just believe everything. And so you're scared of everything as a result of that.
Or if there's a particular house that was on your block, or maybe it was in another part of the neighborhood that you were told to stay away from because this kooky old man or woman lived there, or there was some other cryptic backstory to it. Because remember, as you're saying, we grew up in the 80s and the 90s where there just wasn't as much surveillance is probably the best word. Like you didn't have a phone in your pocket where you could easily pop it out and call somebody if you were feeling a little bit apprehensive, or you couldn't even look up information on the neighborhood
Right.
if you wanted to. So a lot of what informed you was these stories, these urban myths or urban legends that you were hearing from other people. And I know, Eric, you probably were going to get to talking a little bit about Bloody Mary, which is more of a international urban myth, but I remember that terrifying me when I was younger. I really fell for it hook, line, and sinker, to the point where there were times where I wouldn't even go into the bathroom because I was afraid, at night in particular.
Yeah. I remember playing this at sleepovers quite a
You
bit.
played this?
Yeah, of course I did.
Did you play Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board too?
I don't think that ever worked.
Okay.
Like, we definitely tried, but we definitely did like Ouija boards and Bloody Mary and, all of that.
This explains
stuff.
the aura I see around you constantly, Laura.
This is becoming a therapy session of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
Exercising some demons.
There we go. Oh, man. Yep. We're over here exercising demons on What the Hype.
And I think I mentioned this on the episode that we did last year, but I had a friend who lived not too far away from me. Maybe at most it was a 7-minute walk. And we had the tendency to watch a lot of these horror movies, a lot of these slasher films, particularly the Halloween films. And when I would have to walk home from his house at 10, 11 o'clock at night, even though it's very short distance, I always made a point of walking in the street because I was terrified of walking on the sidewalk to get home because I thought, oh, Michael Myers is definitely going to be there somewhere.
Right. He's going to pop out from behind that bush just like he does in the movie. Yep. No, I feel that. I think the urban legend that sticks out most to me from childhood was La Llorona, the wailing woman. So this is a Mexican/Mexican American story about a woman, and there's like various tellings of this, so the circumstances vary depending on who you hear it from, but the concept is a woman is scorned by her husband or lover, and in order to exact revenge, she drowns her children in like a river or a lake or something like that. And she patrols near bodies of water looking to take revenge on other children that are getting too close to the water. And of course, the motivation behind telling kids this is, hey, don't go play by bodies of water unsupervised, right? Like, yeah. I think that's at the root of a lot of urban legends, but this story is just, I don't know, it really sticks out to me because I heard it a lot as a kid. I grew up in Texas, and that always made me feel kind of unsettled, especially if I was like, even going to like swim in a pool by myself. I would have that little bit of unease of like, oh, I'm here by myself. And I don't know if I believe that she actually exists, but like, what if someone did, who was like that?
Yeah. Yeah. See, I still also firmly believe that like belief in something gives it power. Like almost supernatural power too. So like you're more than likely to get attacked by La Llorona if you believe in her, versus if you pay her no mind. So like I still won't hang out on waterbeds because of what happened to Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street. Like I'm just like, that's more likely to happen to me if I'm on a waterbed. I'm thinking about it and it's like, oh God. But stories have power, and the reasons behind them being told might be, in fact, protection, right? We could accidentally fall in the water, so we shouldn't go there. But scaring kids out of their wits by saying there's an old lady that's going to attack you, if you go near water is next level.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that that's at the root of a lot of urban legends, though. I think a lot of them are intended as like cautionary tales to scare children out of doing things that, potentially might result in them coming to some harm.
Yeah. I mean, that's what made the movie Urban Legend so interesting, which was like a late 90s, I think 99 film. And it was that there were these kids on a college campus, and they started getting killed. Very, very Scream, very, I Know What You Did Last Summer. But it all revolved around various urban legend like pop rocks and coke and things like that, again, you're not supposed to do. And people are like daring each other to do it, and really just any excuse for the kind of teen behavior you see in slasher films. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't in fact inform my behavior in no small way to not be like that party kid who takes risks. I still walk in the middle of the street in front of the street lamps, so to speak, of life. Really, I just don't take chances, because why? It doesn't thrill me to take chances. I'm still, I guess, scared or ruled by an abundance of caution as a result of my youth and the stories I've taken in.
Yeah, definitely. Well, to set us up for the rest of our discussion, I want to get everyone on the record. Do we like to be scared? I'll go ahead and answer yes. I like to be scared. However, it is very circumstantial, right? And I think we'll get into some of the nuance in that as we go on with the discussion. But I do find a certain level of like pleasure in the sensation of watching a scary movie and being on the edge of my seat, or reading a terrifying book, because, oh my God, reading a scary story is so much more daunting because your brain gets to invent the visuals, right? With a movie, they kind of have to try and hit like a general sense of what scares people, but when it's your mind inventing the imagery, it's a lot more terrifying.
Totally.
And I do enjoy that.
It is adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
There's certain science behind this too, which I know we'll probably dive into a little bit, but in a way, your body doesn't differentiate, your mind doesn't differentiate between the rush you get from something like that and maybe the rush you get from going on a roller coaster or something that just naturally really excites you, right? It could be seeing a friend in person after a long time. The adrenaline is still the adrenaline.
Yeah.
And I agree. For me, it's situational too.
Yeah, I mean, I subject myself every year to, around this time, I subject myself to a horror movie marathon, the latest
Same.
and greatest and deep cuts that I haven't taken. And I think I probably said on last year's episode, right, horror films are a sometimes, food, where it's like this, every year around this time, I feel like I am putting myself in a position, and I do empathize with the heroes. I get very scared. I get terrified to the point where I have to like look where I'm going walking home. I feel unsafe. And it's because it's a muscle that I think needs to be exercised. I feel like if you're less akin or less aware of fear and what it does to you, the more susceptible you are to make mistakes during it. And I'm like, essentially I'm training for a real life horror thing by getting myself scared in very small doses where I can still cover my eyes. And that's kind of, I think, what I'm doing with it. So I recognize the benefits to fear. And, Micah, you were saying too, the adrenaline rush, like the way the body responds to threats. And I think it's important to keep those skills sharpened a little bit.
So we're all on the record. We like to be scared situationally. We're going to talk a little bit more about that and the science behind it right after this break.